All righty. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. So, how's my sound? Good. Pretty good on sound. All right. Uh, so, I hope all the moms had a great Mother's Day. So, good weather for it. So, today we're going to talk about the power of vulnerability. And we've talked about this before. About a lot of times, our strengths and our weaknesses really are of equal value. And so, our strengths, for instance, if we're somebody who's like super laid back, most of the time that's pretty good, except when there's a crisis. And then all of a sudden a strength of ours then becomes a weakness. And it could be the inverse of that. Somebody could be really good at crisis management, but most of the time we're not in a crisis, right? So our strengths often tend to be our weaknesses, and they're really kind of equal value. And it's kind of important for us to understand them that way. That strengths and weaknesses really are they both are good, and they both provide us with opportunities. And one of the opportunities, when if we want to classify kind of our weaknesses, is that many of our most significant learnings come at the moments when we're the most vulnerable. So we kind of look at our weaknesses as, if you want to characterize them that way, as vulnerabilities. But that's really our vulnerable moments are really when we're in our power, and we'll talk a little bit about that in another couple slides. But it's in those moments when we get the most amount of learning and the most amount of value. And it's kind of interesting where we don't necessarily become introspective in our victories, right, or our successes. They happen and we enjoy them and we just kind of move on. But when we have moments that are maybe not as successful, those moments when we're vulnerable, we either avoid them or we avoid thinking of them, or we don't want to go too deep in them. But those are our best moments. Those are our moments when we actually learn the most. And I'm always, and I use this example a lot. Thomas Edison, right? It took him 1,000 tries to get the incandescent light bulb, and he said, I just learned 1,000 ways on how not to do it. And so he just kept going and going and going, but he used every opportunity he had, where every time it didn't work, it just became one other opportunity. He just figured out, okay, well, that's just not how you do it, so we're going to move on. And so when we look at our kind of our, like, at a societal level, we kind of are trained to call them failures, right? We've talked about this in another presentation weeks ago, that we come from kind of a mercantile society where everything is for exchange. A lot of from a business perspective, a lot of Darwinism, okay, is in here, where survival of the fittest and this and that. And what that does is it kind of takes us it makes us reluctant to accept vulnerability. Things like, I don't know, or you know what, I've never been here before, but we'll figure it out. When we turn those moments into learning opportunities, they can really be the moments of our most significant advancement. And it's really through learning. And the pandemic, I was thinking about this weekend when I was working on a PowerPoint for this morning. I was thinking about the pandemic, and even still now, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had no idea what was going to happen. And we have a little bit of an idea now, okay, but there's still a lot of question marks floating around. And but at the beginning of the pandemic, our attitude was, well, we've never been here before, and so it's all new territory, but we're going to learn a lot along the way, and we're just going to over communicate with everybody, and we'll figure it out as we go along. And it became, for the organization, right, in general, but I can say for myself, became an amazing learning tool. And really every day we're getting this opportunity to learn on being in territory where you can kind of legitimately say, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And it's in those moments, right, those vulnerabilities of saying, well, I don't know, where we have our greatest learning opportunities. And like we were just saying, the courage to say, I don't know, is very powerful. Now, in a competitive sense or in a Darwinian sense, I don't know might come across as being weak. Okay, but I would advocate no. I would advocate that in that vulnerability, saying I don't know means that I'm willing to learn and I'm open to learning, and I'm willing to live in the mystery of what I don't know, and wait and watch as events unfold. And as events unfold, I'm going to learn. And I think that's kind of the key about being vulnerable. Is vulnerable isn't about being weak to be preyed upon. Vulnerable is being able to say, you know what, I've never done this before, or I don't know, or can you help me? Because that's also what happens, is that when we're in vulnerability is when we are open to learn the most. That is when we are absolutely primed to learn the most. Because what we're saying is, I have a gap in my knowledge, in my vulnerability. I have a gap in my knowledge. Now, it also could be emotional vulnerability, not just knowledge based. It could be emotional. Hey, this is making me feel weird, and I don't know why. Can you help me understand this? Or here's how I'm feeling. But regardless of regardless of the context of these are moments when we're the absolute most open and susceptible, if you will, to learning and having a very valuable imprint made on our psyche and on and really how we teach ourselves to handle future events. And in that moment is when really others are the most willing to help us. I mean, rarely when you ask someone for help, do they turn their back on you? It's just so rare. And in your vulnerability and the willingness to say, hey, I'm not sure what this is, or I'm not feeling great about this, or can you help me with this? Not only are you saying that I'm here to live in the mystery, to watch things unfold, but you're also giving other people the opportunity to feel good about themselves by helping you. And just so rarely do you go to ask somebody for their help, and do they turn you down? And those are very powerful moments. Like we as a whole organization, okay, have just been through that. We've just been through, you know what? Well, here's what we're doing today. I'm not sure what tomorrow's going to bring, but you know what? We're all going to do it together. And if we make a mistake, we'll fix it, right? Or if we see an opportunity, we'll run to it. But those are the moments, we all helped ourselves. We all helped each other get through this moment. And so, on an interpersonal level, really just very rarely, if someone's feeling vulnerable, do they get ignored, or, do their emotions, get abused? Because people just aren't really naturally wired that way. And this is the last slide. We've got some chats in here, and we can talk a little bit more if anybody has questions or comments. But some of the most courageous moments are the ones that start in vulnerability, and that's when you're most powerful, because you've sent an invitation for the unknown to become known. Because when we're vulnerable, we're saying, I don't know, like I've never been here before, or I don't understand this. Whatever, it can manifest itself, contextually in a lot of different ways. But what we're saying though is that I'm sending an invitation for the unknown to become known. And those are really powerful moments. And I found this quote Saturday, which I've never seen it before. I don't know where it came from, but it's great. It says, you didn't come this far to only come this far. And I wish I knew who wrote that, because that's really brilliant. And so, and I think there's a lot of vulnerability. And I kind of picked this topic just because, we're still kind of coming out of the pandemic, and you got all the conversations, did you get your shot? Didn't you? Or, all these different things going on. And you get these, and now we're starting to get a lot of questions about the economy. We're going to kind of address that in our town hall meetings coming up this week. Is the housing market going to, is there a bubble? And if there is it going to burst? All this type of stuff. And so there is a lot of unknowns, and there is still a lot of vulnerability out there. And I wanted to really talk about that so that we can understand it really where vulnerability, what a great opportunity is for those, as I said, those unknowns to become known. So that was the thought behind doing this morning. So let's see what we got for chats. It's always great when everybody chats in. Yeah, Allie, I learned during the pandemic that when I resisted something, I figured out it was a sign I needed to lean into it. Yeah, that's really true. When we're resisting things, that's kind of a moment of vulnerability too. When we resist things, that we're really being called to understand them. Those things that it's funny, that expression, that we resist persists. I think that's how it goes. It's because it's persistent. Like it will keep coming. You'll keep having the same experiences over and over again until you master them. And the universe, just as life, has a way of doing that. It has a way of just bringing things to you until you figure it out. And if you keep having vulnerable moments, and the same vulnerable moments, that could be slightly different, situationally, but if you continue to have them, okay, that's life's way, universe's way of saying, hey, you're not done learning here, or you need to learn deeper. Yeah, Bronwyn, right? When you stop learning. Yeah, learning really is learning. I think, to your point, learning is what really keeps us young. There's always stuff to learn. So, Linda B. Oh, great. That's where that came from. Nice. Thanks for looking that up. That's so good. That's great. I wonder who, glad you told me that. I wonder who wrote that. Let's see, how we doing out? How we doing? Kirk, yeah, thank you for your comment. That's great. Okay, any other comments? Any other chats? So think about when we're in our vulnerabilities, what we're really being called to is, allowing the unknown to become the known, living in the mystery long enough, right? For the unknowns to become the knowns. So, well, good to be with everybody. Have a great week, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the town halls this week. It'll be fun. Take care.